Hello, my name is Donna Williams. I am a Chester native. I was born in Chester, graduated in 1999 from Chester High. And I'll give you a little bit of background on what I do and why I do it. Currently, I have a business called Parenting with a Purpose. And out of that Parenting with a Purpose, births Parenting with a Purpose Leadership Academy. And out of that Leadership Academy also entails another part of my story, which is From Grief to Greatness. My overall concept is Donna Janelle, and out of that is Parenting with a Purpose, Parenting with a Purpose Leadership Academy, and From Grief to Greatness. I'll tell you why I started that. So 2014, my older sister, Tamika, who was my best friend, passed away. I used to do a lot of things with her. We lived around the corner. I'm one of six, and we were born in Chester, raised in Chester, and then we all decided to move to Delaware. And particularly Tamika and I became really close. She's about 3 years older than me, and we moved to Middletown, Delaware, and she lived around the corner from me. So as you can imagine, we've done a lot. We go to Walmart 3 o'clock in the morning. We just did everything together. In 2012, her husband had transitioned, so I was right there with her every step of the way. And then in 2014, she transitioned as well. She was healthy. She didn't have any medical illness. One of the things that she did have, which most people who've dealt with a spouse or a loved one passed away, she had grief. And that grief took her basically out. For 2 years, she was really grieving her husband. Her husband was very close. And I watched her go through that process of grieving her husband. And at that time, I really didn't know what to do for her, just to be there for her, be there for her children, and just lend her support. When she called, I was there. When she just needed to, again, go to Walmart at 3 o'clock in the morning, jumped in the car and went to Walmart. On June the 4th, June the 3rd, 2014, I was at work. I'm a nurse. I was at work overnight, and I felt like some uneasiness go on in me, and I wasn't sure. And I'm a praying woman, so at 6 o'clock every day, I have a couple of prayer partners that I pray with. Overnight, I felt a little uneasy, and I had mentioned it to him in the morning. I said, listen, I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but something in my spirit is saying death. And at that time, I kind of actually thought it was going to be the death of my mother, because my mother at that time was diagnosed with double lung cancer, and she was due to go into surgery that week. So I thought God was really preparing me for her death and to be okay with her transitioning. So that morning I talked to my prayer partners, we prayed, and I still wasn't comfortable with it. I still was like, something was still in my spirit, something was still uneasy. And one of the things that I do when I need to hear from God, I usually get on my bike and I ride or I run or jog or whatever. And because my sister lived around the corner from me, I've always just jumped on my bike and rode to her house and have a conversation about her, about what's going on with my life or how I feel. This particular day, I got on my bike and I tried to go to her house, but I stopped at the beginning of her block. I didn't know why. I was crying. I didn't know why I stopped. I didn't know anything was going on. I just knew that I was crying and she was going to try to figure out what's wrong with me. And I didn't want to burden her, but I was so heavy. So I decided to keep riding. I stopped at the block and then I kept riding. As I was riding, my niece, which is her second oldest, gave me a call and said, hey, I'm Donna, my mom's having trouble breathing, not sure what's going on. So I immediately turned back around, went to her house, got there before the ambulance got there, and she was alive. She seemed she was kind of out of sort, but wasn't sure exactly what happened. As a nurse, I was kind of trying to figure out if it was a stroke or a seizure or something, but clearly I didn't know what was going on. The ambulance came and hooked her up on the machine. Her heart was going. She was still breathing. She just seemed a little out of sorts. As I stood there, I felt like some people, I don't know, I felt like a spirit left me or something. I felt like someone left me. And honestly, I said to myself, God, I hope you didn't take your spirit away from me, because I feel so empty right now. And as that happened, she flatlined. She stopped, her heart stopped. They tried to break her back, but they couldn't. So she transitioned right in front of me, and I felt her transition. And after that, I just was like, wow. I cried, and I waited until the ambulance took her to the hospital, called my family, my other siblings and my parents, and just let them know what was going on, her other children. And then I had a time to be at the hospital by myself for a couple hours. So I was able to sit there and just figure out exactly what happened, get my thoughts together so that I can be assistant to my family, because I know this was such a heartbreak. My sister had one boy and 4 girls, so she had 5 children. After that, I knew immediately, based on a conversation the day before my sister and I had before she passed away, where we had just went in the like on the countryside of Middletown, Delaware, just went for a ride. We was just having good conversation, and she had said to me, if anything ever happened to me, I need you to take Donna and Lizzie, which are her 2 younger children who were from her husband. As a sister, you're like, okay, yeah. And if anything happened to me, you take care of my children too. And I just didn't know it was going to be the next day. So I immediately, went and got temporary custody, urgent custody, because as many know that when both parents are deceased, your children is actually property of the state, because there's no one else assigned to take your children unless you had the proper documentation. So did that. And that kind of started this whole grief journey for me. I've always been able to, at the end, if somebody's end of life, I'm always been able to be the one, to be the solid one, to be able to help the family grieve, bring laughter into their life, bring assurance into their life as they transition to the other side. Prior to my sister passing, about 6 other people had passed, and somehow, some way, I was there at the end, reading Psalms 23. And for a while, I wouldn't read Psalms 23 anymore, because I felt like I was being a death angel, but not understanding that there really was a gift from God to allow for me to be able to allow people feel comfortable enough to transition. So after my sister's transition, I start to have to, because Donna and Lizzie were 6 and 8 when she transitioned. And when I got them, they didn't even want to live anymore. They thought that they wanted to lie with their parents, which is understandable, because the 2 people who know you the most, you want to leave with them. And they were so younger, they couldn't understand. So that kind of started the grief journey of me having to getting these girls to want to live. And by that meaning that in order for them to want to live, I had to ultimately deal with the things that I was dealing with that really made me want to live, because at that time I had just went through the process of leaving my husband and of 11 years. And it just was me still trying to learn how to be a single mom, learning how to do life without him. So there was some grief in that too. And I was still, it was a struggle in that I kind of felt broken. I felt unqualified to be raising children who are basically broken, when I felt like I was broken myself. But then God told me I wasn't really broken, and something big was going to come out of the situation. And one day he said something to me, because I was very intentional and very purposeful of how I was going to raise my children and the girls, who are now my children too. But at the time, I had just had them for a little while. And I was very purposeful and intentional. And one of the things came a part of that was parenting with a purpose. Like, how do you raise children? It doesn't matter if you're the biological mother or the biological father, or if you're even family at all. How do you raise children on purpose? Any situation, any circumstance, any color, race, gender, whatever the obstacles are, how do you really purposely raise these children so that they do not live out what it seems that may be something that can actually take them out? So how do you purposely have them live and not just be alive, but actually living, moving, having a being? So I started to dig into a lot of parenting courses and talk to a lot of parents. And I started a private parenting, like more almost like a coaching, but more of guidance and advice of how to with parents. And out of that, I was able to help a lot of families, you know, dealing with not just grief, separation, single moms, single dads, married couples, because having children in this day and time is totally different from when I was raised, or a lot of other people that I know were raised, because, you know, with technology, with just a lot of I know when I was growing up, I was able to go outside, run around. My neighbors knew my name. The people I from Chester, Bennett Homes, the people down the hill knew my name. I lived on Valentine Terrace, and everybody down there knew my name and was able to correct me, were able to guide me, to able to watch out for me. But in this day and age, you really have to be the advocate for your child and able to watch out for your own children, because there's so much going on in society. So how do you navigate that? How do parents really navigate through this system? And that's kind of been my goal, is to let parents know, listen, it's not really a handbook on this. This is something that, you know, you will grow in. Parenting is growth. So as you grow, your children grow. You learn the things that you can and cannot do, should have did better. For me, I have 4 children now. So what I did with my 24-year-old, I definitely don't do with my 14-year-old now, because times have changed and things have evolved. And I've learned some things from that. So just teaching people how to do this thing, and be confident that God has really equipped each of us to be able to parent and get our kids to where they need to go. But one of the things that I realized during this journey is that in order for us to parent with a purpose, that the parent has to live with a purpose. And that is digging into what the things that a parent should do. Like one of the things in our leadership, the 6-week leadership course that I do is learning parenting, learning leadership, because parenting and leadership are hand in hand. Parents are the first leaders in the house. Like parents are the first teachers. Parents are the first of everything. So in order for our children to be equipped to go out in the world so that they don't go naked, we as parents have to make sure that we clothe them. So how do we do that? We talk about finances. We talk about self-care. We talk about different things that our children are dealing with, and how to help, not judge, not to condemn our children, not to make them feel like whatever they have to say is, we don't need to hear it. Because I do remember growing up, is most children weren't able to say, have opinions, or even just express themselves. I remember, you know, it was always going around, grown folks are talking, and not saying that at that time that may not have been good or bad. I'm not going to judge, but I've learned a lot through that. But I also know in this season, in this culture, that we have to hear our children in order for us to be able to give our children exactly what they need, not based on an opinion or something that we thought, or because, you know, we're mom or dad and we want everything to be a certain way. So we may parent out of fear. We may parent out of just past experiences, but each child's unique. So that's my goal. And that's what I've been doing for, honestly, since 2015, coaching parents with either grief or teaching them how to navigate through parenting. And not just the parents, I also do it with the youth. From Grief to Greatness, there's a youth edition, because children are what I think are like most people forget about children grief too, because we're so heavy in dealing with our own grief that we forget about the kids. And one of the things of having my girls, Donna and Lizzie, and even my son Joshua, they were grieving, and it allowed me to hear them as they grieve. So I kind of took that to the next level and start helping other people through that. I have families in Chester, families in Delaware, Wilmington. I have families in Maryland. And it's basically, it's a word of mouth service that people do. If or if some funeral homes, if they know that there's children that are related and they're grieving, a lot of people call on me. The other thing that I'm doing, besides the parenting piece, the parenting academy, the grief, is I also speak. I speak across the country, to school districts, to women, to children, just regarding grief and parenting. And my newest thing, which most people are about to know, is that I will be having my own radio show hosting, and it's called Parenting with a Purpose. So again, just taking the information that I've learned and that I'm still learning, just to get it in the ears of parents and be a vessel, or someone that people can just call on for resources, or just be an ear to listen, because as you all know, parenting is not for the weak. So how do I get the tools in the hands of the parents to be able to do what they do successfully? And success could be just getting your kid through high school, keeping your kid alive to 21, keeping your kid off of drugs, keeping your young daughter not getting pregnant as a teenager, having your children graduate from college, having your children start their own business, whatever success for that family is. I want to be the tool to be able to help them get to the next level.